Two Old Guys Records, one old guy for now, as Mike and I decided when we're going to return to the studio for new segments. But until then, we've still got some fun segments of our, for our love and passion for our favourite records. And all this week we've been looking at 12-inch EPs, which evolved from these 7-inch EPs, and by the late 70s and 80s we had these 12 inches, whether they were remixes of songs, whether they were mini LPs, whether they were just EPs, but they were there in that 12-inch format. And today's episode we're looking at those tour editions. Bands and artists would tour Australia and other countries, of course, and they would release this special tour edition. And for us fans, we loved that because it was something else. It was, if we went to that concert, we also had that album, that edition of that tour. And yes, everyone did that. Everyone from, let's say, Duran Duran's, tour early in the 1980s, Night Versions Limited Australian edition, yes. And of course, to ZZ Top, yes, another tour edition of the Australian tour, in the mid-80s. So everyone was doing it. But I'm looking at a band that was on the cusp of something very, very big in the 1980s. Yes, they were rock. They had a big sound. They sort of morphed a little bit, but they were a great rock band by the time they came to Australia. They had a great guitarist and an amazing vocalist. I'm talking about The Cult. Yes, The Cult. And like I said, they were on the verge of making it big by the time they came to Australia. But a bit of background, it started back in 1981 with Ian Astbury, the vocalist, his band called Southern Death Cult. Yes, Southern Death Cult. And they were not metal, they were post-punk and new wave and maybe a bit of gothic there too. But they disbanded after, I think, one album and they became Death Cult. Yes, Death Cult, not a metal artist, yes. Not a metal band. But this is where Billy Duffy came in, the guitarist. I think they released an EP and then they just dropped the Death, No More Death, and it became The Cult because they wanted to appeal to a wider audience. Now, they released an album called Dreamtime, and the single was called Spirit Walker, and Spirit Walker made it #1 in the indie charts, and the album, was pretty big in the indie charts too, but they didn't do anything, in the mainstream charts. And then their next album, Love, changed all that because they released this song called She Sells Sanctuary, and it is a rocker. Just that intro for the guitar, and then when the drums and bass kicks in, and of course when Ian Astbury starts singing those vocals, it was an amazing song. It charted very, very well. It hit the top 20, deep into the top 20. The album Love did very, very well also, reaching great heights, maybe a top 5. It was top 5 into the top 5. There was other singles like Rain, also, for example, Revolution, a ballad. Okay, they all did very, very well in the UK charts. So they were on, getting there. And of course, they went to the studio to record their new album, and they asked Rick Rubin, a very young Rick Rubin in the mid-80s, to remix or to record one song, and he goes, "Oh man, you guys have to rework the whole album." So yes, they reworked the whole album from scratch, okay, mixing it, and even though the Beggars Banquet, the record company, had spent a couple of £100,000 on the album already, they redid it, and Electric comes out, and what a album. Okay, they moved away from that that sort of alternative rock, and then just became a really, really hard rock band, and they had songs like Love Removal Machine. What a killer rock song, but I'm not going to be looking at that. I'm going to be looking at the tour edition of that album, and here it is. Yes, the Wildflower Special Limited Edition Australian Tour EP. Yes, that was a bit of a mouthful, but here we go. What a EP. And for us fans, that love The Cult so much, imagine when this came out, we just devoured it. And we did devour it. But let's go through the EP because it's all killer, no filler. It's got everything in it. That's what I love about this EP. It's got everything. It's got remixes. It's got, original songs. It's got live tracks. It's got everything a fan would want. Thank you very much, Billy, and thank you very much, Ian. Great variety. But here we go. Wildflower, the rock mix. Now, the original song is just this ballsy rock song, gutsy, chords that would make even AC/DC salivate. Yes. And what a song it is. Hard rock at its best. But how do you remix it? You remix it by, increasing the sound of the drums, a lot more drums in it, and thank God we've got a lot more of Billy Duffy's guitar work. But, the original song, I'm a wolf child, babe, howling for you, Wildflower. Can you get anything better? Can you get anything more romantic than that, eh? Being a wolf child. But yes, great rock mix, extended than the original. But like I said, a lot more drums, a lot more guitar work from Billy Duffy, and it's great. And on that same side is the howling mix of She Sells Sanctuary that we just looked at. Now, howling, wolf child. But there's something about the wolves here. But anyway, She Sells Sanctuary, a great song. And I think this mix is for the dance floor because that guitar work that is so distinctive at the beginning of the song comes much later. That's been replaced with synthesizers, more drums, alternative drum beats, okay? So you've got this sort of dance alternative to one of the great rock songs of the 1980s. And like I said, She Sells Sanctuary, and the world drags Ian down. Yes, there's fire in her eyes, and I'm sure she'll keep him alive, and she did keep him alive because she's selling Sanctuary. Great song and a great mix. I prefer, I suppose, the original version of it, but look, this dance version, great on the dance floor. On the B side, you've got these, this B side of Love Trooper. Now, this is a non-album track. It was recorded live in the studio at the Manor Sessions where they were doing everything. And I must say, this is one of, this is the cult's most creative period. There's so many great songs and so many songs that didn't make albums, but this is one of them. And Love Trooper is amazing as a rock song. It starts off with Hey Little Love Trooper, blitzkrieg your way into my heart. My God, how intense. You can't get more intense than a blitzkrieg. That's what I must say. And it climaxes when he sort of says, and I'm wasted and abused, waiting for you like a chocolate sunrise. She melts into my mind. And then you go to the outro of Little Love Trooper all the way through. How psychedelic is that, being a chocolate sunrise and melting into your mind that you can't forget this person? Yes. And then we finish off the EP with 2 live tracks recorded in the Brixton Academy, and the first one is of course Horse Nation, and this is Ian Asbury's real appreciation and love for Native American culture and its people, of course, Horse Nation. And you've got this, see them prancing, they come neighing, and they come Horse Nation. It's a rock song. It's very rocky. It's been reworked to be a really crazy rock song. It is the glorious movement of these wild horses. Yes, Native America, we salute you. And of course, right at the end is a rock song off the Electric album called Outlaw. Yes, and it's great storytelling in the lyrics. It's Jimmy who is after the Candyman, and he walks into this country town, and he's initially scared of the deputy, but then he sort of comes in guns blazing and shoots them all, right? So, I love it. He's an outlaw, he's a bandito, but he's also very doomed for what he did. All right, so yes, wild one, but doomed. So that is a great EP. Now, a little bit about the tour in Australia. Now, yes, they were exhausted. As Ian Asbury later said, that we were fried by the time we got to Australia. The other thing was, I read that, they were on the cusp of something big, playing small arenas, and they came here and they went back to playing clubs. And probably this frustrated them. They were probably tired. But when they got to Selena's club in Sydney, it was a wild night. It was a wild night with, everything. The crowd went wild for him because it was just a great set. But the band imploded. There were beers flying, there were fights in the crowd, and they imploded on stage. They destroyed over $35,000 worth of equipment on stage. It was the wildest night you could imagine. And you know, the consequences of this was, you know, they couldn't tour Japan because their equipment was all destroyed, and no one would hire them any equipment. So, wow, what a tour! How can we forget that tour? And we've got this limited edition EP to remind us of that tour. So a great EP. Tomorrow I'll be looking at an extended play, my favourite extended play, and it's not a dance extended play, of course. Right? So like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, keep those comments coming in, share these episodes, and I'll see you tomorrow.